And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and this is going to be a fun video on how to use Rebels, a super top secret faction that no one's ever used before. We're going to use Rebels against Gas. That's right, the Rebels need to be some Gas X for this team. Now, Gas, or General Anakin Skywalker, his team is really, really good, but I've seen people beating it with Padme. I've also seen people beating it with Sith Empire. Now, the devil's in the details. What happens is you've got to exceed the relic tiers of the team you're going against. It's a very powerful team. And so what we're going to do is, because the devil's in the details, I have to go over the team I'm going against. I've got a couple battles. I went in and did a couple battles today finally, and then I recorded them, and we'll go over them. They weren't perfect, and I don't pretend to play perfect. So there's more than one way to skin a cat when you're playing, but we'll talk about the basics. Both were successful runs. If it was Territory Wars, one of them would have got me a 19 and the other would have got me an 18. And that would have been sufficient for going against the #1 defensive team in the entire game. So we're going to go through his team first. We're going to go through what his team looks like. And then we're going to go through my team. We'll talk about modding, relic levels, all the details that I've never shared on my channel or even publicly before. So pretty excited to break this team down for the world so everyone can see. At the end, we'll do the 2 battles and we'll talk through those 2 battles. All right, this is Harano. This gentleman has the best team, and I bumped him back to 10th for this video, but he has the best team on our leaderboard with General Anakin Skywalker. He has all of the Zetas except for Ahsoka's, but he's got Rex and Echo and both of 5s, as well as all 4 of General Anakin Skywalker. 5s and General Anakin Skywalker are Relic Tier 7, which is key. Echo is 6. Rex is 4, which is amazing, and Ahsoka is 2. So he could make this team a little better by adding a Zeta to Ahsoka, as well as at raising the relic tiers of the rest of his team. But this is a very, very solid team comp. Let's just go character by character to see how he mods this team. So the first thing is he went with a defense set and an offense set. That's something I've actually recommended already on Jedi Academy. And the reason for that is you want him to reduce as much damage as he takes because he's a tank, but you also want him to do as much damage as he can because he is a tank. The arrow, of course, is a protection, but only because he has high speed. Look at this protection. 1400 plus the 24%, and he has 15 speed secondary. Now, this one is crit damage, which I do recommend for the additional damage, and it has a ton of extra protection and 21 speed secondary. This one has protection with speed secondary and some offense and defense. And again, protection. Now you notice 3 protections, and the reason for that is you have to topple him, so you want as much protection as possible. 15 speed secondary with 2 different defenses. 20 speed secondary with some offense, which is good. And 21 speed, which is really good as well. So a lot of defense. If you look at his overall stats, this guy is almost 180,000 health and protection, about 260 on speed, 192 crit damage, and then over 8,000 offense, which is really, really good. And his armor is almost 65%, the special damage 6,600. So he's solidly modded. Let's go look at 5s. 5s has all defense with protection up top, critical damage, protection, and protection. Defense, of course, with some good secondary speed, and of course, some defense and a ton of protection secondary. Overall, basically the same amount, almost the same amount of health and protection, a decent amount of speed boost, crit damage boost, as well as overall damage over 5,000 for 5s. With Echo, he went a crit chance with a crit damage set, very smart, with offense up on the arrow, crit damage with a lot of speed secondary, offense with speed secondary, health, which means you can run him in under a couple of different teams, defense with high 21 speed secondary, And offense again with 22 speed secondary, pretty good. Overall, Echoes is looking pretty solid at about 100,000 health and protection and 250 speed, 222 on his crit damage, and almost 6,700 regular damage. Armor's at 45%. His special offense is almost 10,000. Rex has a speed set with speed arrow, offense, potency, health, with 23 speed secondary and 23 speed secondary. Again, about 85,000, 87,000 health and protection, 328 speed with a plus 168 speed to this bad boy. Physical offense at 47, armor's at 45, and special at 56. Now, Soka has a health and an offense set with offense, crit damage, offense, protection, defense with 21 speed, and offense with 16 speed. Overall, about a little over 80,000 at 200 speed, crit damage at 195. That's not bad. Physical damage at 66 almost, with almost 70% crit chance, over 40% armor, and 3,500 special offense. All of his sets, you can tell his damage dealers, basically the two damage dealers he has, which is Echo and Soka, he has either offense or crit damage on, with lots of offense primaries. With the two tanks, which is gas and fives, he has just a ton of protection, but he put crit damage triangles on there, which is smart for the extra damage output. Really whittles the team that you're going against away while they're trying to get through. And then he just made Rex as fast as possible, and that's really to put up that tenacity up and the additional turn meter and whatnot. So Rex looks really good. All of them are modded very, very well. This is a very difficult team to beat. Now let's go look at the team that you have to beat this when we're talking about the Rebels. Now the first is the leader CLS, and you will want him pretty fast. You're also going to want him at Relic Tier 3 or above. 3 is really the landing spot for him. You're going to want a speed set plus another set. You can see that trying to reach the speed thresholds for me is difficult, but I have a speed arrow, an offense triangle because we're looking for the extra damage, a defense cross, but this is not what I recommend here. What I really recommend for him is a offense cross with a crit damage triangle, but I don't even have a crit damage triangle that has any real secondary speed. This is a real thing, very difficult to have, so I had to work with what I had. I put the offense up here instead of the crit damage, and I put the defense down here because of the 20 secondary speed, but preferably this would be offense, and of course this is health, but I would prefer it to be protection. Protection goes just a little bit further. And then you can see, of course, I've got the others for the set. Now let's look at his stats. So he's about 87,000 health and protection. His speed's at almost 310, and you're really trying to shoot for that 310 plus on this, okay? You want to get him really pretty fast, definitely 310 or above if you can. It's a stretch, but it's not a terrible stretch. I only have plus 137 speed on him. There are a lot of people out there with 140, 150, 160 sets, so you could definitely get him fast, but you don't need him too much faster than the rest of the team. Now, I have his damage at almost 6,000. It could be significantly better than this. It's not, and that's okay. His armor's at almost 53%. That's pretty solid, and that's because of the defense that I put on him. It does kind of compensate for not having that protection. And then his team, let's go ahead and go into his team. Now, Han Solo, it's really important, in my opinion, when you get to relic tiers, that you move from crit damage to offense percent on the speed on the sets that you're choosing. So Han Solo, he's relic tier 7. He really needs to be relic tier 5 or above. You're really going to shoot for that 7, and we're going to look at his set. It's an offense set, and that's it. I had to do this to get him. Now, you want him fast. You definitely want him fast. You're going to want him over 270 speed. I believe mine's 278, but the faster, the better. But you do want to balance speed with damage because he's really a huge damage dealer for this team. This should be a crit damage triangle, and it's, again, one of the few I have, so I used it on him since he's got more damage output. On this should be offense for the cross, and this should be protection for the circle. But again, I have health because the health with the speed secondary is what I have. But just note that you really would want protection. It goes a little bit further to protect him. So this one should be protection. This is good with offense. This is good with crit damage. And then you can see I have an offense and a defense. The set I'm using is offense, and I would prefer to have something else in there, but this is just what I had to work with. Now you can see I have no additional protection. I wish I did instead of that health, but because his health pool didn't need that 16% health, he really needed a big boost on protection. But anyway, the health pool's the biggest pool in the relic tiers, so a health circle isn't bad because I get a little more bang for my buck just due to the relic increases. But he's around 100,000 health and protection. I got him 122 plus speed, but really anything over about 270 and you're going to be very competitive. I've got his crit damage to 205. And then you do want a little potency on him because he can turn meter reduce. I tried to give him some secondary potency. I got about 10%, so he's around 45%. That's not very good. You really want to shoot for around 60% potency minimum, but it's very difficult. You have to target the right mods that have that speed and potency secondaries to really master that. As far as damage, though, he's pretty solid on damage output. Physical's at 94%, and his crit chance is at almost 100%, which means he's basically guaranteed to take another turn with 98.64 turn meter increase when he takes his special. So looks really good. His armor's at 50%, which is funny. That used to be the standard to get to for tanks back in the day, and now almost everybody that has relics is sitting there, so kind of crazy. Okay, now the secret sauce that Team Instinct would have you be furious if this got out. And this is really the only thing that people probably may not have done, because this whole team was actually known and being used by a lot of people. But and I already had all of my characters modded already, but when they sent out the remodding instructions, one of the key differences with this team against Gas was the amount of tenacity needed for Chewbacca. Now, it's kind of common sense because he's going to counter a ton, and you don't want him to get dazed, and they're not going to focus on a ton of potency on their Gas. They're going to focus on a ton of protection on their Gas. And so because of that, kind of the secret sauce to this team really working is to make sure Chewbacca never stops shooting. He cannot get stunned. He cannot get dazed. You want him to stay in the fight until the end. If you lose him, you are going to lose the battle. And so you want to go 3 sets of tenacity. And on the arrow, I went ahead and went speed. Now, you don't need a ton of speed on Chewbacca. However, he can do some pretty big hits, and you want him to go quite a bit. He can do a stun as well. It helps with control a little bit near the end. And then I have crit damage on there. This is a great multiplier when you get really, really high, and he has a lot of damage. So this isn't bad. It has also, if you look, the secondary is 6% tenacity. That's solid. And then down here, I have a tenacity, and then I have 2.66 offense with some flat offense additional and speed. That's pretty solid. And then over here I have protection. I do prefer protection, and then some secondary speed. And then of course on this one, secondary speed with some offense, but there is some good protection on here. And then also this is offense speed with some health and some offense. So not bad. Let's look at his stats. All right, so roughly around 120,000 health and protection. He's a little more durable. I have him a little fast at 262. He doesn't have to be quite that fast. This is one of those characters on the team that you don't have to go all in on speed. Really, the speed isn't as big a deal. He takes a lot of bonus turns, but a plus 100 speed, if you can do it, is worth it. His critical damage is at 192, and my goal with tenacity was to get over 150,000. That'd be great. Over over 150% tenacity to really shut down anybody who's modding under 50% potency. So the 154% tenacity is a solid add. If you can get it higher, great, go for it. And then his damage, physical damage, is over 8,000 with 74% crit chance. Pretty awesome. And his armor is over 50% also, which is pretty solid. Old Ben, and by the way, the relic tier for Chewie should be over 5, but preferably 7. Han, over 5, but preferably 7. And then with Old Ben, preferably 3 or above. So I got him to relic tier 3. Now his mods aren't very good, so you got to forgive me. I just working with what I have here. Really, protection is the name of the game. He's probably going to die. You're probably going to lose a point. Almost every time I do a battle, I lose Old Ben, and it's okay because I have his second Zeta, and one of his Zetas will actually give, a bunch of turn meter to the team, which will accelerate the victory at the end. So it's okay if you lose him. But I've got protection on there for the primary. Over here, I have protection again. Speed secondary, because you do want him to be around 220 or above, so he can actually take a turn. At 220, he'll be able to use his mind tricks. His mind tricks is going to basically give you a larger window to be able to topple and take down the team. Again, I went protection with protection and some speed. Over here's a random mod with health and speed, but this was used strictly to get to the speed threshold I was looking for, which was 220 or above. And then, of course, here I've got just some speed. This isn't a really good mod, to be honest, and neither is this. 14 speed, it's okay. This one, 10 speed, it's okay. Honestly, it's not too difficult to mod him. A bunch of protection is really what you want to do. You can see I've got, 55,000 health, 85,000 protection. So, about 130, 140,000 health and protection should suffice. 140 here-ish. And I got right at 220. That's only 82 additional add. You should be able to get that extra 82 on there. Potency isn't as important, although if you can get any secondary potency for the mind tricks, that would be good. And then, of course, he doesn't do a lot of damage or worry about that. His armor is almost 67%. That is pretty solid, so you've got that. And then as far as his Zetas, the if you strike me down, whenever they take damage, Old Ben gains turn meter. The first time he's defeated, all allies will gain offense up, speed up, and this is for 2 turns, and they recover 50% health and protection, and they'll also get 25% turn meter. So when he dies, they're gonna get jacked up, revived, lots of turn meter, and do additional damage. So this Zeta is the Zeta that I would say is kind of worth it. Now, you do have Echo on the other team, and because you have Echo and the Dispel on the other team, I do recommend Devoted Protector Zeta as well, because when he loses Taunt or when Taunt expires, he's going to gain Taunt for 1 turn again. So they will have to Dispel him twice. This does keep your team safe when you're trying to do the topple and take out the team. It ensures that he's the one that falls versus any of your damage dealers in this team. Now, as far as Commander Luke, I recommend all 3 of his Zetas, Han Solo his Zeta, Chewbacca, both of his Zetas, and you want to make sure that when you're looking at your team comp that the 2 that are guarded are your Commander Luke and Han. And the reason why that you want them to be the squishiest is because you want them to get the guard. When they're guarded, they can't be stunned or dazed, and that's super important to make sure that they stay in the fight and are able to complete the battle with the damage. Now, the last character that we're going to talk about is C-3PO. Relics should be 3 or above, really preferably 3 or above, and his speed needs to be just about 1 or 2 slower than Han Solo. Now, keep in mind he has a unique protocol which gives him a natural 20 plus speed, so you're going to get a freebie of speed here, which you can factor in. Now, my C-3PO is a little bit faster than he should be, about 20 speed faster than he should be. I could steal some speed off of him if I needed to, but I haven't messed with it because I continue to win. Now, the thing is if he's slower than Han Solo can start a turn meter train and damage train that gets going, and C-3PO can finish it up if he goes right after him. But you can do this before Han Solo as well. Honestly, the timing of C-3PO, is not as big a deal as some people would make it. Again, mine is way too fast, about 20 speed too fast. And really, he just needs a little bit of speed and potency, and this guy is good. Again, you want him tanky because he's going to be, you don't want him guarded. So I did speed on the arrow. I have health here with speed secondary. I have potency here, and you do want that because he does do a lot of debuffs with some speed secondary. I have some health with protection and speed secondary. Of course, defense with speed, and then offense with speed. And when you look at his stats, you'll see he's pretty tanky, 76,000 health and almost 60,000 protection. I have him 277 speed, so he's really fast. I mean, I could basically go plus 100 speed on him and he'd be fine for what we're trying to do, but it does not hurt you to have that. The other thing is I have his potency, which is important on this guy, over 100%. That is important because you are going to want to overcome the tenacity that they're going to have on these characters. And most of these characters are relicked really high, which means they're going to have a natural inherent high tenacity even before they start modding for tenacity. So you're going to definitely want to get over that 100%. If you can get closer to 125, 135% potency, do it. You can sacrifice some of that speed for this potency, okay? The rest is not a big deal, but the armor kind of, if he happens to take some damage, he does have a 60% armor, which is really, really good. All right, now this is the first battle that I went into, so we're just going to play it, and I'm going to talk through it. And the first thing that you've got to do is you've got to topple General Skywalker. You can't do anything else, okay? So you want to topple him. So I used a basic. Side note, if you look, I have guard on both of my damage dealers, which is important because we don't want them dazed or stunned. Now, he does a ton of damage. This is a non-crit for 18,000, and he hasn't even been ramped up yet. Another one for 17. Now there's expose and tenacity down. This is important. We're going to go ahead and do as much damage as possible. Something else is the reason why I used CLS's special was to get translation over your head. You actually do want to use your specials to get translation going. However, you'll notice sometimes I do that and sometimes I don't. That's just inconsistency in my play behavior when I'm playing. It really is good to get those translations above your head so you can gain those benefits. Now, in this scenario, I was looking at turn meter, trying to decide who I was going to target once, I was able to do the mind tricks and whatnot, and just determine, should I use mind tricks right now? Because you can wait and use it a little bit later. But for the sake of this, I decided, because there was 3 that were coming near turn meter, I decided to go ahead and use mind tricks. And I got ability block on all the guys that matter, which are the 4 that I'm about to take out afterwards. And we're just going to go ahead and topple him. Now he's toppled. We got to take out 5s and 5s first. We're going to put this translation over Chewie's head so everyone has translation. We want to make sure they all have it. Now the goal is to take everybody out while he's on the ground. The problem is this is a relic tier 7 5s with a bunch of defense mods and a bunch of protection, and everybody else is relic to 7, 6, 5. So it's very, very difficult, but your goal would be ultimately to take all 4 of them out on the first topple. But if not, the second topple, you can take them out. So I go ahead and do the backhand. I get him stunned, and we're just going to go to town, taking him out. So I don't taunt yet because what we're trying to do is kill characters, and we're going to use the taunt when we need to protect our damage dealers. Again, if you noticed, it stunned the droid, but my other 2 have stun protection, and Chewie didn't get stunned because of the tenacity. And now we're going after Rex. He comes up. So after first topple, this is terrible. I've only got 1 killed and 1 critical. There's still 4 guys on the board, and a lot of my protection is gone. This isn't an amazing run, but this is a solid run, and I do end up winning this battle. So now we have to topple him. I go ahead and put my taunt up, and the reason for applying the taunt now is because he's going to start to ramp up and do some real damage, Gas will, and you really want him to kill Old Ben and not your damage dealers. So they countered. We're going to do a backhand special. It should do a lot of damage, especially with the there you go, boom, and he hits Old Ben. We're going to hit him again. get the expose, 61,000 on that counter. He gets toppled. We're going to go ahead and start, kill off him. We're going to kill him off. We're going to move over to her. I hit both with that just to try and take protection off of both. And but he actually can't take any damage when he's in his like hibernation mode. I saved that special so I could regenerate health and protection for this round. And now we've got to go all ham in. Now if you can get tenacity down like we've got, there's also a potential that you can stun General Skywalker. If you can stun him, then it's a for sure win. If you can't, then you can just do as much damage as possible. The expose helps you to chew through his damage. So we're going to hit him, get the extra. He hits him. We're going to do the backhand. It's a pretty good hit. And there's the counters. There's double counters. And then we hit. And there you go. That is a victory. Solid. We lost one character. We had health and some protection on these characters. Not a bad battle. We're going to go and show you a slightly worse battle because this one was actually pretty solidly in our favor. We're going to show you one more battle, but it's a little bit worse. All right, same exact team. We're just going through. I had been bumped back once, so then I was able to do another battle. The strategy's the same. Topple him, take out fives, take out Rex and Echo kind of simultaneously, and then Ahsoka. You want to do it as good as you can. If you don't get anybody killed, it can be a really rough round 2 before you get him toppled again, but let's watch this battle. So for some reason, it started really slow, even though it was in 4x speed. So we're going to go ahead and go. And by the way, this is why I really wish I had protection on Han, just for a little bit more protection, because he takes a lot of damage. Now we're going to do mind tricks because 3 of their characters has pretty good turn meter. We get ability block on 4 of the 5, not on Rex, which stinks because Rex is the one you want to ability block so you can prevent the tenacity up. And I put that on Han Solo as far as translation because Han Solo didn't have translation yet, and neither did Chewie. And we almost have there we go. We've toppled him. Now we're going to go after 5s. The only problem is I used my special to topple, and I should have used a basic because of the double hit on a basic. We stun him. We're just going to keep going. Now he puts protection up, or tenacity up, and that is a problem which I was trying to avoid with the ability block. We got to kill Rex, and this is, like I said, really a problem. He has tenacity up, so that's not going to work. Now tenacity is down. I'll just hit them all. What hitting them all does is hurt them all, take a lot of protection out. He was still toppled, and I was hoping to kill 5s with that, which I almost did. And now he comes up. This is not a good place to be. Toppling him and not getting any victories, not winning at all. This is tough, but we're still going to win this. And even in territory wars, this would still be an 18, which is solid against the #1 team in the game. And this is not a slouchy team with high relic tier 7s and high speeds. So we're going to keep playing this out. So we just have to topple him again. I should have used Han's special to get translation over his head, and he would have gotten the attack from Chewie anyway. And I almost lose Han here, which is really tough, so I taunt. You always want to save that taunt until you're here. When one of your characters is about to go south, you definitely want to wait, and then you've got that double taunt if you have that Zeta. His tenacity is pretty high, so he did resist that at first, but we're just going to keep going. We're going to topple him with as much damage as possible, and here's the back slap. Probably didn't need that to topple him. I probably could have done a basic, but I wanted to be sure he toppled. And now we're going to kill him. We're going to move over, kill Rex. We're going to move over, kill Echo, but not before Ahsoka kills old Ben again. And then we're going to try and kill Ahsoka. And we're going to hit them both, although he doesn't get any damage. Now he gets mad and he does target Han Solo. Han Solo in that moment should have done the crit or the his special, which puts up crit chance. The reason for that is he wouldn't have been countered and killed, which is what happens. He would have also got his 3rd translation, and Chewie would have shot, and he has more protection. Again, not a perfect battle. And then we're just going to finish him off, and we're going to do the back slap, and there you go. So victory. Not a bad victory, but you can see when you play things back, when you start to break down what's going on. You can kind of see where you went right, where you went wrong. Also, when you're playing, you can see what modding needs you have. For example, you'll see that Han Solo's just a little bit squishier than I'd like. There are some strategies like using his special so he doesn't get countered that would have helped, but having protection instead of health on modding would help too. I hope the modding, the relics, the Zetas, the play-by-play, a couple of battles so you can see this really helps the entire community from Team Instinct. I hope they are able to use this as a tool as well. I hope that Ma is able to use this and all the other guilds in between. As always, I appreciate you guys coming on and checking out my content, and keep your gaming on. Warrior out.